Okay, so you guys sent us some pretty interesting stuff about Trump's tariff plans for 2025.
Yeah.
And we thought it'd be worth it to do a little deep dive on it.
Yeah, definitely.
See if we can figure out what it means for you beyond just kind of the headlines. You know,
Absolutely.
we've got excerpts from a bunch of different articles and speeches.
Right.
So yeah, let's just get into it, I guess.
Yeah.
So maybe like the first thing to do would just be like, what even is a tariff?
Yeah, so a tariff, you can think of it as basically like a tax on goods from another country, right?
Okay.
So if like a toy is made in China, right, and it's shipped to the US,
Right.
you know, if there's like a 10% tariff on it,
Yeah.
for every $100 worth of toys coming in, you know, the company importing those toys
Right.
would pay like $10 extra to the government.
Got it.
So it's just like a tax on imports, essentially.
Okay. And from what we've seen, they're saying that they want to do these tariffs for a few reasons.
Right.
One is to protect American jobs, make it, if foreign goods are more expensive,
Right.
then it's going to make stuff made here more competitive.
Yeah,
Right.
Absolutely.
Also to try to reduce the trade deficit.
Right. Right.
Which, that's when we import more stuff than we export.
More imports than exports. Yeah,
Exactly. And then also to kind of push back against unfair trade practices by other countries.
Right.
That's kind of the reasons why they're saying
Yeah.
that they want to do this.
Yeah, those are the big ones.
Okay, so what's the 2025 plan look like specifically?
Yeah, so the thing that really jumps out at you is the increase.
Yeah.
You know, they're talking about a 60% tariff on like all goods from China.
60%.
60%, that's huge.
Yeah.
So that's targeting things like, electronics, all the electronics that we use, machinery, textiles, all that.
Wow.
So it's a pretty big increase.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And it's not just China, right? They're also talking about tariffs on goods from Mexico and Canada. So cars, steel, agricultural products.
Yeah.
And Europe too. Things like luxury items, cars, food products. So it's across the board.
So why are they doing this?
Well, they're saying that they want to bring manufacturing jobs back to the U.S.
Okay.
Right?
Makes sense.
Strengthen the economy.
Okay.
Make America great again, basically, is the idea.
Okay, but what does it mean for me?
Right. What does it mean for you exactly?
Yeah, like what am I going to see in my everyday life? Like, is this a good thing?
Yeah.
Is this a bad thing?
Yeah, it's a good question.
How's it going to play out?
Yeah. So let's look at who would benefit from this, right?
Okay.
So one of the big winners would probably be American manufacturers, right?
Okay.
So if imported goods get a lot more expensive because of these tariffs,
Right.
that makes stuff made in the U.S. look a lot better.
Yeah.
Right? It's more competitive,
Oh.
price-wise. So you might see an increase in demand for American-made product, and companies might start, producing more here in the U.S.
Okay, so American manufacturers.
Yeah.
Good.
And then also workers in certain industries might benefit.
Okay, what kind of industries are we talking?
So, sectors that have been struggling, like steel production,
Right.
automotive manufacturing, maybe even electronics manufacturing.
Okay.
If there's more demand for American-made products, they might need to hire more people.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
job growth in those sectors.
Okay. And what about the government? Like, do they see any benefit from this?
Yeah, the government actually does benefit because, tariffs are taxes. So that means more revenue for the U.S. Treasury.
Okay.
So they could use that money to, invest in infrastructure projects,
Okay.
support certain industries, whatever they want, really.
Got it. So American manufacturers, some workers, and the government.
Right.
Okay.
Those are some potential winners.
Okay, so who are the losers then?
Well, unfortunately, there's probably a lot more losers in this scenario. The biggest one is probably consumers like you and me.
Okay, how so?
Because, when they put tariffs on imported goods, those costs usually get passed on to us.
Right.
In the form of higher prices.
Right.
So you remember that example of a smartphone that might go from $1,000 to $1,200
Oh, yeah.
because of the tariffs?
Yeah.
That's just one example. It could be TVs, furniture, clothes, pretty much everything could get more expensive.
Right. Like if I want to buy a new fridge or
Sure, right.
like some new jeans or something,
Yeah.
that's all going to be more expensive.
Yep.
Okay, so consumers are kind of on the chopping block here.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, what else?
Businesses that rely on imports,
Okay.
if they need parts or materials from other countries,
Right.
those are going to get more expensive too. So either they have to eat those costs, which cuts into their profits,
Okay.
or they pass those costs on to their customers by raising prices.
Okay.
So it's a lose-lose situation for them, really.
Okay. What about farmers?
Oh yeah, farmers are definitely going to be hurt by this.
Okay. Okay.
So when the U.S. puts tariffs on other countries,
Yeah.
those countries often retaliate by putting tariffs on our exports.
Right.
And that includes agricultural products.
Oh, so like soybeans and corn and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it becomes a lot harder and more expensive for American farmers to sell their stuff overseas,
Okay.
which could really hurt them.
Got it. Okay. So we've got consumers, businesses that import stuff, and farmers
Right.
all potentially losing out here.
Yeah.
So this is starting to sound kind of scary.
Yeah, it's not looking great for a lot of people.
Yeah. So maybe let's like make this a little more concrete.
Yeah.
You know, what does this mean for like the average person, you know?
Right.
Like, let's say I'm just like the American shopper.
Okay, the American shopper.
Yeah.
So as you were saying, you're probably going to see higher prices on a lot of the stuff you buy.
Okay.
You know, from groceries to clothes to electronics.
Yeah.
You name it. It's all going to cost more.
Okay. That makes sense.
So your budget's going to be stretched thinner
Right.
just because all these things are imported or have parts that are imported.
Right. Okay. What if I'm like a small business owner?
Okay, so let's say you run a little bookstore, right?
Okay.
And you import some fancy stationery from Mexico.
Okay.
Well, now that stationery is going to cost you a lot more.
Right.
So you either raise your prices and risk losing customers,
Okay.
or you take the hit to your profits.
Right.
And for a small business, that's already tough, you know?
Yeah, it's a tough spot to be in.
Yeah, not a good situation.
Okay. What if I'm like a factory worker?
Okay, so if you work in a factory that makes, you know, steel or electronics,
Okay.
you might actually benefit from this
Okay.
because there's going to be more demand for American-made products.
Okay.
So your company might have to increase production,
Okay.
maybe even hire more people.
Got it.
So you might have more job security, maybe even get a raise.
Okay. So there are some people who could potentially benefit.
Right, it's not all doom and gloom.
Yeah. But it does sound like a lot of this is going to depend on like how other countries react.
Exactly, you don't just put tariffs on other countries and expect them to just sit there and take it.
Right.
They're going to retaliate.
Yeah. What does that look like?
So basically, they're going to put tariffs on our exports.
Oh.
So if we put a tariff on Chinese electronics,
Right.
they might put a tariff on American soybeans or something like that.
Okay.
And that's what's called a trade war.
Trade war.
Yeah.
Okay. And like, what's the problem with that?
Well, the problem is it hurts businesses that rely on exports
Okay.
because their products become more expensive in other countries.
Right.
So they sell less stuff.
Right.
They might have to cut back production, lay off workers. You know, it can really hurt the economy.
So it's kind of like a back and forth thing.
Yeah, exactly. One country puts a tariff on another country,
Right.
and then that country retaliates with their own tariffs,
Right.
and it just keeps escalating.
I'm like, nobody really wins.
Yeah, nobody wins in a trade war.
Okay. So that's scary.
Yeah, can be.
So we've talked about the pros, the cons.
Right.
Like, is this ultimately good or bad for America?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
There are definitely arguments on both sides.
Okay, let's hear them.
All right, so the people who are pro-tariff, they argue that it's going to protect American jobs,
Okay.
encourage companies to bring manufacturing back to the U.S.,
Right.
you know, make us less reliant on foreign countries.
Right.
And they say it gives us more leverage in trade negotiations.
Okay.
You know, we can use tariffs to pressure other countries into giving us better deals.
Makes sense.
But the people who are against tariffs, they say that it's going to lead to higher prices for consumers,
Right.
which we already talked about.
Yeah.
They say it risks starting these trade wars,
Yeah.
which can hurt the economy overall.
Okay.
And they argue that even if some industries benefit in the short term,
Right.
the long-term effects on economic growth might actually be negative.
Right.
So it's kind of a gamble, really.
Wow. Okay. So it sounds like this is a pretty complicated issue.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Is there anything like I can do about it?
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely things you can do.
Okay.
First of all, stay informed. You know, keep up with the news.
Right.
See what's happening with trade policy.
Okay.
You can support local businesses
Okay.
by buying American-made products.
Right.
If you have strong opinions about these policies, you can contact your elected officials,
Right.
let them know how you feel.
Okay.
And you might want to start thinking about adjusting your spending habits.
Okay. How come?
Well, if prices on imported goods go up,
Right.
you might need to find cheaper alternatives.
Right.
Or just buy less stuff in general.
Got it.
So it's all about being prepared.
Okay, so to sum all this up,
Yeah.
this whole tariff thing is a big deal.
Huge deal.
It could be good for some people,
Right.
bad for others.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to say what the long-term effects are going to be. So as you're thinking about this, what are you most worried about?
Right.
What are you most hopeful about?
Yeah.
Like, how do you think this is going to affect your life?
Yeah. I mean, prices might go up. There might be retaliation from other countries.
Yeah,
It's a lot to think about.
definitely.
And, thinking even bigger picture, like how is this going to affect global trade in the long run?
Yeah.
What's going to happen to supply chains?
Right.
What does it even mean to be American made anymore?
Right.
If all these tariffs are in place and companies are moving their production around,
Right.
it's really going to change things.
Yeah, that's a really interesting thought.
Yeah, it's something to keep an eye on for sure.
Well, thanks for breaking all this down for us.
Of course, happy to help.
And for all of you listening out there,
Yeah.
stay informed, keep asking questions, and let's see how this all unfolds.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a story that's just getting started.
Yeah.